Welcome to the Theory of DFS podcast. I'm Jordan Cooper, the co-author of The Theory of Daily Fantasy Sports, 15-hour audio DFS masterclass. You can pick up at theoryofdfs.com. Neil is in Puerto Rico, so I figure bring back on the guy that he replaced. You haven't been on for 15 months, the first time, Eric, that we met in person was this over this weekend, and if you could see on the video, why'd you punch me in the face?
That's what damn it, you stole my thunder. I figured you were having me back on to let everybody, let me tell my side of the story about how I beat the shit out of you and gave you a black eye. No, but it is kind of funny that the first time we did get to meet and hang out in person, you came back looking like you got the shit kicked out of you. So, maybe there's some correlation between those two things.
Well, this is what happens when you miss an MMA slate, right?
right, exactly.
I learned that pickleball is not just small tennis, and that just because you were good at tennis when you were 17 doesn't mean your body could do the things that it could do when you were 17 when you're 43 years old.
See, the wife and I just we skipped out on an old pickleball. God bless you guys for going and playing it. We did the thing that us guys who are getting old now do. We went and ate way too much food and sat on our ass, and had a brunch cocktail and all the opposite of physical strenuous. I guess it was technically still kind of strenuous activity, but not the kind that makes you any healthier.
The funny part was that Britt came, and Britt wasn't in the pickleball tournament, and he was like one of the only people there that wasn't playing. And I asked him, I was standing right next to him. I said, why aren't you playing? Like it's like oversized ping pong / miniature tennis. Right. Like we're playing doubles. Like what much can you do? And he literally said, no, I'm just here to watch someone get injured.
Well, you had to hold up that up for him.
Right. And he even took me to urgent care.
Yeah, that's a team player right there. And see, he got what he wanted, and then he paid you back by a trip to urgent care. Yeah.
Right. And I got to drive my rental Mustang. I look cool. I had to rent the car because my wife needed the car, and I was driving down to Nashville, and they were all out of compacts. Like you reserve it. Apparently at the rental place, you just reserve a car, and whatever happens to be there, and they're like, you may have to wait an hour because they're waiting for cars to come back. And then they came in from the lot and said, would you take a Mustang convertible? I'm like, same price? And he's like, yeah. I'm like, okay, give it to me. Let's go. I'll travel down like I have a midlife crisis going out to Nashville.
Right. That's so funny that you say that because we got a rental car to drive from St. Louis just because sometimes, you don't have to take your own car. We'll just take somebody else's and little bit of peace of mind. Well, first of all, I also hungover and tired Monday morning when we were going to leave. I never been so close to wrecking the car. I was trying to pull out of the hotel, and I mean, it had to be like millimeters away from just smoking this pole in the parking lot at the hotel that we were staying at. So clearly, Sunday night was I had a little bit too much fun. I couldn't even drive the next morning, I guess. But on Saturday when I went to pick up our rental car, I guess it's Super Bowl weekend, like a big rental car weekend or something, because the same thing happened to me. We just got whatever, midsize or compact or whatever. We're just two of us driving to Nashville. I don't really give a shit what it is. They didn't have what we ordered in, so they offered me a Ford F-150 or a Mini Cooper.
Which one did you take?
Well, I said, are you sure you don't have anything else? And the guy went and checked with his boss, and they had a Nissan Sentra coming back in, literally at that moment. And I was like, can we just do that? I don't want to drive the truck. Like, there's no sense in me getting a truck to drive down there. And midlife crisis, the Mini Cooper would be the opposite of what you did, I think. Like, this would be just like succumbing to the fact that I'm getting old, just driving a fucking Mini Cooper down to Nashville. I haven't reached that age yet, so I was not willing to do that. So, but yeah, apparently the rental car is just a total scam. You order whatever you say you want, and you're never going to get it, I guess.
Right, but you pay whatever amount that you paid, and they're just trying to get rid of you.
Yeah, very strange.
But we had a good time down in Nashville. I believe there may or may not. I'm not going to be the one to do it. Of a video of Kevin Roth humping the ground while singing karaoke. That I've seen it. You've probably seen it, or maybe in our internal Slack. But I wasn't going to be the one to screen cap that and throw that on Twitter. I'll let the parties who want to do that. But uh, not for me a lot of drinking. But I mean, I spent my Saturday night there in the hotel lobby with Squirrel Patrol, watching the UFC pay-per-view on a 6-inch phone screen.
Yeah, what the bar was like never open at the hotel. It was an awesome weekend. Just had an absolute blast. But yeah, very weird little quirks throughout what is a normal vacation trip. The hotel bar, which was super nice, by the way, like it's Sunday of the Super Bowl, not open at all. I'm like, you could have made like some money of people. It's Super Bowl Sunday, we're like, there's another football stadium within eye shot. It's like it was a great place to be jacked up for the football game. And yeah, it was closed when we got back from going out on Saturday night. It was closed the whole time I was at the hotel on Sunday. I don't know what their business model is, but it didn't make a lot of sense to me. But it was a ton of fun. I had a ton of fun throughout the whole weekend. My wife beat the shit out of me in DFS. She nearly won the company free roll and everything. So that's pretty par for the course. I'm on here to talk about DFS and all that. And she
played the guys that everyone was taking in Bestball and finally did well in the Super Bowl. It's Sky Moore and Kadarius Toney. Like, they're the ones that scored, right? I didn't play anything. Mm-hmm. I'm hanging. I think this encapsulates my past year or so since the last episode that you were on, Eric, was entitled Life EV. And since that episode, I believe 15 months since then, or at least the past year, the amount of money that I made, I'm satisfied with, but the amount of time that I've had to do other things or just enjoy my life was the best. 2022 I consider to be like the best year of my life or whatever when it comes to recreation versus work balance type of thing. And like, I went down to Nashville, like, I didn't have any MMA lineups. I didn't play the Super Bowl. I didn't play, I'm sitting there next to Keith Eister and he's checking his lineups during the Super Bowl. It's like, I got nothing. I'm just watching to watch a Super Bowl. And, other people are checking their phones, and I'm just, give me those little meatballs. Give me the pizzas, pizzas that they're coming out. Right, I'll take little fudgy things, little dessert things, and there's an open bar, and I'm pretty much just drinking soda. Right, give me the unlimited soda. I did have like a Jack and Ginger or whatever, ginger ale type of thing. Yeah, one. I also didn't want to drink because like at noon that day I literally hit my head, and I didn't want to confuse like being drunk with like concussion symptoms.
Right, exactly. Right? Like, you're not, if you have a severe concussion, you're not supposed to go to sleep, right? It's like a real thing. Like, they make fun of it in movies, like the guys on the bus or whatever back from the football game, don't let him fall asleep or whatever. But it's like a real thing. And how are you to know if you had one too many cocktails with your concussion, whether you were just
right? I go slurring speech. I'm going around. Of course, I'm making the joke. People are coming up to me at the Super Bowl party, like asking, are you doing okay? And of course, I'm just making the joke of like, who are you again? Where am I? What's going on? I have no idea. Wobbling around.
It's funny you mentioned the life EV thing though, because I played a little bit of not anything crazy of Super Bowl showdown stuff just for fun. So I locked Kadarius Toney. That was like my one thing. I'm like, that's the one thing I feel strongly about. He scored, but I don't know if that was right or, I don't know if that even worked or didn't, but I wanted to have a little sweat with one thing about Kadarius Toney. So I just locked him and played some teams, and it was fun, but I didn't care. I mean, there's it's a $6 million prize pool and I got 25 teams. Like, I'm not going to win anyway. So I might as well just enjoy my Super Bowl. But to that point, I haven't played as much playoff. Like, I used to like really go hard at like the different playoff slates. Didn't play that much this year. Haven't played NBA, but a handful of slates all season. And I love the NBA. I still watch it, which I didn't think I would be able to do. Like, when you've gambled on it as a part of like when you're watching it, you're kind of sweating your teams. I wasn't sure if I'd be able to like really still enjoy the NBA as much, but honestly, I have. And my one kind of still passion of DFS and just gambling in general is college basketball. But it's like, there's only so much money you can get down like in college basketball DFS. It's never like a thing where I'm like, oh man, so-and-so got 3 fouls in the first quarter. I just pissed away thousands of dollars. The life EV thing for me has been pretty real. Obviously, I have all this Bestball stuff going on, which I don't know if that's helping my life
You're
EV.
doing drafts for next year already.
Dude, that's what this industry has created. They launched a fucking 2023. We talked about this over the weekend.
Right, they're drafting players in the draft that aren't even on a team yet.
Right, exactly. You're drafting rookies. You don't know. Not only do you not know, you don't know where they're going in the draft. Right, you're just like, it's all guessing. It's like, oh, this guy's a good prospect, but he could go in the 5th round for all that we know, right? And then you took him in the in the 8th round of your draft because you thought he was good. The NFL tells you he sucks, and he could like not even make the team. The rookie stuff, and obviously free agents. Like there's like Saquon Barkley, one of the headliners, Josh Jacobs from last year, the guys that were pretty good are free agents, and they're like 1st round, 2nd round picks. It's like, what if Saquon doesn't go back to the Giants? What if Josh Jacobs goes somewhere and is like a committee back, and you're drafting him in the 1st round? It is crazy, but the people love it, right? And obviously I'm trying to build a business around it. So that's the sacrifices we have to make, is apparently drafting on February 10th for 2023 NFL season. But I do find like it's so much more casual than like grinding NBA DFS. Like it can be stressful following the NBA slate, from I'm in Central Time, 5 p.m. Central Time on, right? 6 p.m. Eastern Time on, can be kind of awful. The Bestball thing is like, I'll keep up on it. Like I'll walk the dogs and like fire up a draft. You only have to be paying attention for 5 minutes out of the whole 40-minute experience. So it doesn't really bother me quite as much. And so but I have been trying to focus a little bit more kind of on the life, not to your extent. I still, I'm not commenting or anything, but I see all these tweets of the travels and the poker games and everything.
Well,
and
poker there's an edge. Poker, I mean, like poker has replaced NBA DFS. I was going to tell you, like, have you seen?
Okay.
I've literally
lots of poker.
Like NBA DFS is done. I'm no longer playing NBA DFS, and it's not that there's no edge. Like to me, and this has been a focus on a lot of my pregame shows on Roto Grinders about edge finding, about where are the edges, and what are the better ones? Truthfully, there's no huge edges anymore in any of this. Right? There's huge edges in DFS, regardless of the sport or the format. Huge edges in prop betting or sports betting. Huge edges in poker. Huge edges in Bestball. Run the gamut. There are tons of edges though, but there are tons. If you want a 3 to 5% edge on something, you could go 24/7 with the amount of edges there are in that range. 10 to 15% edges, maybe not as many of those. And obviously past there, if there's anything past there, it's something that no one's talking about because your people are exploiting it. Or there are edges that are 20 plus that just are absurdly high variance, right? We're talking about like NFL Showdown. Like, the edge is there, but to realize it is, that journey is going to be swing heavy. The thing about the life EV is not necessarily stopping the getting your edge, but it's very similar to what we've talked about in the past about how much time does it take and how much money do you need, and that your goal is, and then maximizing for that. And it doesn't mean that you can't find edges. You can find edges everywhere. So like the number one question, Eric, that I get asked a lot, either via email, DM on the show, is that like, oh, you're playing poker over NBA DFS? Is there not an edge in NBA DFS anymore? And I go, no, there's huge. It's late swap. I mean, it's a humongous edge. It just takes a lot of work, but there's a humongous edge there. I said, well, if there's such a huge edge, why wouldn't you be doing it? I said, because there's 400 other places where there's edge. I'm only one person. Like, I mean, it's like the I'm only one person argument, like, is built around like life EV, because I see people, they're grinding their nuts off 16 hours a day, finding all the edges, and maybe they're building up a bankroll. Maybe that's good to do when you have a small bankroll and you want to build it up to there, but you get to a certain point where, like, it's diminishing returns of raw money on your own happiness.
Right.
Yeah. Of like Wednesday night, like one of the first sacrifices that I made, compromising with my wife. My wife, turns out, ended up loving professional wrestling. As much as I do. She's ordering, she's watching, she works late at night. She works the graveyard shift for doing the crisis counseling. And she's ordering like New Japan pay-per-views from like that air at like 3 a.m. because that she's up watching. Wednesday nights used to be Wednesday nights typically are a good NBA DFS slate.
Huge.
Right? Huge. Wednesday nights were huge, but Wednesday nights is also when AEW is on at 8:00. So the thing is that when you're doing NBA DFS, it's hard. Even if no news comes in, you're always at the edge of your seat on like, do I have to make sure that Jokic is in? Do I have to make sure that the Warriors lineup is whatever? And me and my wife enjoy watching AEW on Wednesday night. So like the first thing was like, I'm just not going to play NBA DFS on Wednesday night. So I don't even have to think about it. I can just sit there and enjoy, watch together. She makes dinner. It's a night for us. And then we made Friday night kind of that also. And it's like, she knows that on Saturdays, I like to watch MMA, right? I don't have to. But also the type of thing of like, I don't really sweat the slates anymore. Like, I'll watch Red Zone for NFL, but when baseball comes around, like 7:00, I'm done. I mean, like, I'm done. I don't need to be involved in anything. I do the prop betting, which most of the time you're getting early, like 1 a.m. when the lines come out.
Yep.
You hammer a bunch of stuff. Okay, that's done. Then 6:30 at night Eastern, you get your MLB lineups out there, and okay, you're pretty much done there, unless some late starting lineups and you have to change out. This guy's in and that guy's not in. I mean, Taylor Ward's not in the Angels lineup, so I got to switch something out. But then moving on, it's like, okay, I found an edge there. Then I'm playing poker 3 or 4 days a week, right? And a lot of times I'm playing in the day games. I'm playing a lot of times, 3 in the afternoon. So if I'm not playing NBA DFS, if there's MLB, I mean, I could probably make lineups from the poker room, bring a laptop.
That's the great thing about MLB, and I am going to play MLB because I'm looking forward to it. But it actually has a lot to do with this exact conversation, is because obviously you need the lineups to come out, but you could really just make your lineups like the night before. You know who's pitching for the most part. You know who's almost assuredly going to be in the lineup. Give or take a couple things, especially early in the season. It's like, okay, like you said, Taylor Ward's not in the lineup, right? Or what? We didn't know which catcher was going to be in
or the guy that normally bats 8th is now batting 2nd.
Yeah, right. And so those things matter, but like also don't really matter that much. Like you said, if Nikola Jokic is out, the entire slate has completely like everything you thought you knew about the slate 2 minutes ago is irrelevant. And now everything is it's a new game, right? Once Jokic is out, obviously it's a little bit different, right? When maybe LeBron's been out for a little while, blah, blah, blah. But at the end of the day, right? The Heat, notorious, still are, right? Everybody's fucking questionable. So like you said, even if everybody plays, that like we're like, we're just assuming they're in because this is what the Heat do. Even if they play, you spent all that time, right? And like you said, waiting for a half hour before that game starts. Please God, Jimmy Butler play so this whole fucking night doesn't go to shit for my next 3 hours, right? It's just like all of that. Whereas baseball, college basketball is for me, like I said, is like the small way for me to still play it. Also, I'm doing like college basketball stuff for scores and odds, and I just like it. We bought, to your point, similar to the wrestling thing, we bought St. Louis University basketball season tickets this year. So that's like a thing that my wife went there and coached the dance team there for several years, worked there. So like, she's a very proud alum and she's turned me into a fan. My tweets are pretty much now Bestball and getting upset about St. Louis University basketball. So the things that, I mean, like you said, 15 months ago when you and I were still doing this, if I thought this would be my life, I would have told you you're a fucking moron. But I enjoy it. We enjoy it. Like, it's a ton of fun to just go out, go to like kind of, there's 15,000 people in the small stadium. It's nice. We have a good time. Everybody there is rooting for this random team that some people don't even know exists. Like, at least like AEW wrestling, it's a big thing generally speaking, but like there's plenty of people who don't even know what AEW wrestling is, right? That's you guys' thing. And like, I don't know. Like you said, the life EV of those things, I can still get my edge. I believe I have an edge in specifically like the college basketball stuff. That's my poker, basically. That would be my poker to your version. I'm not playing NBA DFS. I can usually find a few props every day, right? Or a few sides or totals, whatever, that I think are just wholly mispriced because there's a fucking 120 games every day or whatever in college basketball. So like I grind, I get my still, kicks in grinding that a little bit and then try to do some of this other stuff. My wife is also huge into F1, which I never thought I also would say, but I've gotten huge into that. We watch practice. We watch qualifying, right? We watch all the races. Sometimes the races are at like 1 a.m. Sunday morning and we'll stay up or go to sleep early and wake up to watch the race. Right? It's our wrestling, again, to like what you're doing. So I think that what you said is so spot on. There's so many avenues to get your money down. A lot of them have like you said, probably most of them I would lump into the 3 to 5% edge. But also you can find the ones that still have that 3 to 5% edge that you enjoy, but also that don't take over, that don't consume your whole life. Like when I was really playing NBA, probably when we like at the beginning of when I came on here with you, it was my life. And I wasn't making, like I was making fine money, but like, these other guys, the really, really good super pro players or whatever. But like I was waking up, starting an article, what has kind of now become the core plays on RotoGrinders, right? You kind of give the context of the slate. And
right, you were doing a blog.
Later.
You were doing like a live blog.
Every fucking new update throughout the day, right? Like the Jason Tatum thing just recently, right? Randomly at noon, unexpected, Jason Tatum out, whatever. Provide an update for that. So it was basically from 8 a.m. and I would try to give updates when they were relevant, right? Like Jokic plays the 9 p.m. game and gets ruled out 10 minutes before. I would try, if possible, to get stuff. So it's 12 hours of just thinking about NBA DFS and what does all this mean and everything. But that's why I was able to, over the course of the season, do okay. Not necessarily, like I said, I'm not making completely life-changing money, but I was able to be successful. And I just don't want to do that. Like, I'm not saying I couldn't. I'm saying I don't want to. I don't want my
right, but it's a trade-off. It's not necessarily even a want or anything. Like you could do that. You would enjoy doing that
because of the trade-off. Yeah,
right. But the trade-off is like if I told you, okay, you're going to go back during NBA season, you're going to pretty much 12 hours a day. It will be your life, and you'll make and compared to what you have now, you'll make an extra $40,000 for the year. That may not be like, truthfully, it's like, it sounds like a lot of, to some people, it may sound like a lot of money, but maybe in your lifestyle, you make enough money where it's like, would I rather have $40,000 or 6 months of work, because it's still enjoyable. So it's not like work.
Exactly.
But it's like, okay, 6 months. So let's break this down. I want to break it down from a numerical standpoint, because I did this on the show, that let's say, for the NBA season is mostly what? October to November, December, January, February. I mean, it's
April?
6 months. It's six.
Yeah,
I mean,
April.
6 full months. Mid-October to
May,
mid-April.
Right? Yeah.
Okay, so that's, let's say 30 days on average in a month, right? 180 days, right? Maybe you take weekends off, right?
I did, yeah. And
right, you did. Okay, so maybe you're not playing every day. So let's just say 5 days, 6 months, right? 6 months. Let's just say 25 weeks. 5 days a week, so that's 125 days. And let's just say you're thinking, you're focused on NBA 10 hours total, right? Just let's say 10 hours. Because it doesn't mean you're at your computer or anything. You could be walking the dog, but you're still like in the mindset of, I have to be on for NBA, right? You have to be on and thinking strategically or something. So let's say 10 hours a day. Right, so that's 1,250 hours, right? Let's say that produces you an extra $40,000 of revenue. That comes down to $32 an hour. Okay, which is not bad or anything like that. But maybe instead of getting paid $32 an hour, maybe you could find a way to make up the $32 an hour into something that only takes you on average 2 minutes per hour to do, such as prop betting or something like that, where it's like, hey, I could do NBA props and and blast out three or four best ones early. There's no late swap for NBA props, right? Right? So you do that, and maybe you end up making another $40,000. But all you're doing is you're making it from 8 a.m. to 8:05 a.m. every day instead of 10 hours a day on the DFS stuff. And it's like, while you could do both, it's just like, you make enough money that now you have an extra 9 hours and 55 minutes a day to do something else. The doing something else doesn't have to be an EV generating event. It could just be, I get to take a mid-afternoon nap. I get to, it could be like, I get to have a late brunch with my wife or with friends or just whatever it is that you want to do that has nothing to do with making money, because you can't get your time back, right? Time is something you can never get paid in. So it's like, if you just want to enjoy yourself or work on your business, work on Spike Week, right? Work on other projects, work on anything else that you want to do that could maybe currently not make much money, but 10 years from now you're selling an asset that's maybe worth $20 million and you own 20% of it. Right. And there you go. There's your $4 million that you sell it off.
Which I could never make an NBA, obviously setting aside variance, but if we just use the $40,000 example, right? And the amount of time if I take that time from NBA DFS and invest it into this asset that I'm trying to grow into something bigger, the exponential potential growth of that asset is like dwarfs what NBA DFS could provide to me personally, right? There's always, you have some big scores and people focus on that all the time, but at the end of the day, I just really feel like, for me, where I am at right now, and this wasn't, it is really funny because it was really only like maybe 2 years ago where I was not this way.
No, I think we both were. I think you were more the fact of like, oh, there's an edge somewhere. I'm running for it. I'm running after it. I'm running until you realize, truthfully, there's like an infinite amount of edges everywhere. Yeah. And you're only, like, I think the good title of this episode, you're only one person. Like, you're only one person. So, like, I think a lot of people that get DFS, right, buy the theory of daily fantasy sports, right, or watch your Bestball streams and know that nothing matters, right, right. Yep. Like, they finally get it's like, oh, like, once you simplify it all down, you could find edges in so many different avenues everywhere. Some higher variance, some lower variance, and sure, if you wanted to spend 16 hours a day just grinding out all of them or as many of them as possible, it's doable. But at the end of the day, now you have, oh, look at all this money I have. And what are you spending it on? Nothing. I mean, you're grinding out edges and then sleeping, then waking up and doing that and then sleeping, then waking up and it's the main reason why I stopped playing poker professionally 15 plus years ago. That's what I was doing. Of like, for 4 or 5 years, playing 8 to 10 hours a day, 6 days a week. And then next thing you know, it's like, what am I actually producing? What am I, like, I have this money, but I'm not, like, I'm doing it, like, okay, my bills are paid, but I'm never home, right? And I have this money, I travel, but when I travel, it's for poker. So it's like, right. what am I doing? I do stand-up comedy. I kind of put that on the back burner. So it's like, why don't I just save up a bunch of money, make as much money I can in poker the last, year and a half, and then just said, I'm moving. I'm gonna move to the middle of the country and now go on the road doing comedy. Like, comedy doesn't pay well at all. I mean, I retired from doing that, right, through digital marketing and DFS. So it's like, it's to me, it's not a monetary thing. And I think a lot of people that are not professional gamblers, it's hard to, because I don't consider myself a gambler, but have been around advantage play. I think that's a better way of putting it. If you've been in the realm of advantage play, whether it be you play a game, you bet, you're a professional at something that involves beating other people at a game that has some amount of luck involved in it, that, especially when you're younger, like in your 20s, like that's the lifestyle.
Yeah.
Right? And then once you're 43 years old, once you're older, you're like, having $100,000 in your bank account is not the be all end all of it. Like having $1 million in your bank, have like there's a point where, like, at what point do you stop? Because you're never going to be you're never going to be satisfied. You're always going to have FOMO of, am I doing, because these are the questions that I get, Eric, of, now that I'm doing this, should I go after this? Should I do after? I said, dude, you could do all of it. And then the people ask, well, how does like McLovin do it? How does Yuta do it? And they're like, these are people that have developed, that are highly advanced processes where they could almost press a single button and get everything. They're doing the same exact thing of, how do I get as much of this done in as little amount of time?
Right.
And they're excelled in computer programming and all of that type of stuff, where they can play all the sites and all the slates and everything like that. So if you want to work on that, you definitely can. But most people don't have the skill level to even do that. So you have to pick and choose. So you have to, sometimes sometimes on Sunday football, you're not playing NBA that night because you're focused on NFL. And it's not because there's no edge in NBA on Sunday nights. It's because you're only one person. So I think people judge others by, you used to play, like I told people, I said, I'm probably in MLB not playing large field GPPs. It's like, but isn't that your strongest? MLB large field GPPs, isn't that your strongest game? I go, yeah, but the 121 is probably the softest contest, in my opinion. The single entry. And with the amount of variance, like exploiting 3-mans and 5-mans has bigger edge to me than the GPPs, and it's lower variance. So it's like, if I think I can make about the same amount of money and have even less risk of ruin and lower variance, like, why the fuck won't like, I'll do that. And then people will ask, well, why can't you do the other thing also? It's like, well, the other thing takes more time. I mean, like, I can't reproduce time. So it's like, do I either want to do this and it takes me 7 minutes, or do I want to do this and that and it'll take me 90 minutes? It's like the extra 83 minutes, I'm just like, fuck it. I'll do something. I'll fill that time with something else. And when you're like 24 years old, I know, because I was 20. We both were like this. You go, well, what else do you have to do? Like, at a 24-year-old schedule, it's kind of like, well, when you're done with 7 minutes of doing that, don't you want to continue? Well, what's the next DFS sport? Or what's the next?
Right.
Like, because you're single, you don't have any dependents, or you don't, like, I mean, your life is different than what it is. And if you tell, and the funny thing, Eric, is that if you told like 23-year-old me or 24-year-old me, like that would be your life. Of you just get to wake up and play DFS and poker or whatever like that, and that's all you did, 16 hours a day, I'd be like, that's the life. And then I would have said, no, you 20 years later, you're going to be like, you wish you could do like 1 hour of that, and then just like kind of like the thing that you're looking forward to the most is like a Saturday where you literally get to just sit on the couch for 8 hours and do nothing. Like, that's your vacation of like, wow, actually nothing. Like literally nothing. You just get to, I'm going to sleep late, wake up, and then watch an entire season of a television show. And that's all, and not look at Twitter and not care about anything. And that is the life. I tell my 24-year-old, you're crazy. But then you get to be 43 years old, and you're like, no, the best part is having the financial stability to be able to do nothing. Like, it's the weirdest thing, the feeling of just, I don't know what I'm going to do, but all I know is that that next week on NBA All-Star break is like, what are you going to do? It's like, well, I'll probably play some poker. I'll other than that, I don't know what I'm going to do, but whatever it is, I don't have to do anything I don't want to do. And just the feeling of not having to ever do anything you don't want to do, to me, dude, I'll make half the amount of money just to always have that feeling, right? So like once you start viewing the world in that aspect, you're not in the constant state of where's the next edge, what's the next business I could build, what's the next podcast I could record, what's the next show what's the next piece of content, right? I don't do anything on Thursdays. Let me do a live stream. Like fuck that. Like at some point, it's like this is all I'm doing. And I'm fine. And if I feel like doing more, I'll do more. And if I don't, then fuck it. Like this show used to be once a week. And I said, fuck it. Now it's every other week. It's like, oh, isn't that bad for the podcast? Yeah, it would be better if it was every week. If there was a business goal of this podcast, yeah. If I had a boss, my boss would say, why do the fucking thing every week? It helps sell more courses. Right. But I'm my own boss and I'm fine. This course sells good enough as it is, right? I'm happy the way it is. So I don't have to talk to Neil every goddamn week. Right? So there you go. I don't have to go rustle up guests or whatever. So I'm like, okay, it is what it is. And if people want to listen, right? People, the volume on the YouTube thing. It's like, fuck you. Like, it takes time to do that. And it's not worth the time for me to do. So listen to the podcast feed where the audio is normalized and maybe it's not like that. So but those, do you get any of that? Like, especially with Spike Week, especially I know it's mostly Bestball, but do you get a lot of that from viewers or people that are seeking advice for you for Bestball of like what are the best tournaments to play? What are the best drafts to do? What are they want to do it all, and you're like, there are edges everywhere, and if you want to focus on these types of contests and not play these types of content, go for it, right? If you want to do basketball, if you want to do second half of season basketball, Bestball, if you want to do the daily drafts, the weekly drafts, like all of these concepts are the same. Whatever concepts you use, it's very similar to DFS of large field, small field. How many teams are in the league? 8-team leagues, 12-team leagues, draft type, snake drafts, auction, like all of this type of stuff. That just because you're like, well, I'm not going to play these, doesn't mean that there's no edge. It just means for you personally, you don't need to make all the money and need to spend all the time. But do you get that feeling? Maybe more like a psychologist type of session. But I feel like I have to over justify why I don't do something because it makes it feel like, oh, look, you're teaching everyone to play DFS, and then it's like, well, I'm not playing NBA DFS, and then people are like,
right,
like, then why the fuck should I play? If you're not playing, why should I play? It's like, dude, I get my edge from a million different places, and NBA is the most amount of time. And it's the highest amount of edge in the most amount of time, but fortunately enough, I'm good at all of this shit. That it's like I can make 100,000 plus a year, and choose where to do that rather than I need to make 250,000. I don't need that. And I'd rather have the time. Do you ever feel like you need to justify what you don't do?
Definitely. And I think it's two parts is because I used to be that way. Like you said, I was that guy, like literally to a T. Like you described, like other people, like, oh, I think I've gotten pretty good at NBA. I've made some money at NBA, whatever. Let's tackle the next thing. I was that guy. I fucking played everything. Part of it was I started before my RG days. Like I started a startup in the DFS space and all of that. Like that's how I got into it. That's how I started meeting people. I loved it. Just like you said, I was whatever. I think I might have been 24 actually. So it's funny you said that. I think I was 24. Living, had bought my first house, had two my best friends living with me, literal bachelor pad, having fun, drinking, building a fantasy sports company, and grinding my dick off, and what else did I have to do? Nothing. I didn't have a significant other, nothing. I had literally nothing. So, and I think it was just a little, definitely a little luck where I just started to have some success in like NBA and NFL. Those are the two main ones that I guess baseball, but it was, I really was passionate about the first two. And I'm like, well, I started having success in this. There was 1 year where I made every live final except NHL, and that's because I didn't fucking play NHL. And I'm like, well, guess it's time to start playing NHL, right? Because it was just like that's just what you did. It was like you're having success, let's take on the new thing. So now I'm grinding NHL. Like I can't even pronounce these guys' names, and I'm right. And all of a sudden, out of nowhere, at 25 years old, you're like, well, I'm just going to take on this new thing because I was just always on the hunt for the next thing. Everything you stumbled into, and again, the game was very different. That's 10 years ago now. The game was very fucking different back then, but I think it was like from that point, like kind of ingrained in me that that's just how you made it. You know, that's just what this industry was about. And then so I grew up, right? I always say this to everybody. I'm like, I consider myself like a slightly above average DFS player, like good enough to be able to make money at this thing long term, take advantage of the, you know, all the fishies that are out there. But like there's so right, Yuta and McLovin and all these, you know, Brick and Whistles and all these guys are stone cold killers, right? But they're doing the thing again, and it's not a knock on them, but they're doing the thing like 16 hours a day, staying up all fucking night, doing all this shit, right? You got to be at your computer at all points in time, every night of an NBA DFS slate, blah, 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 blah. And like, I came kind of up around all of that. Not saying I was like a part of those whales or whatever, but like, that's just what it was. Like, that's what being a DFS player was, you know what I mean? So it was just ingrained in me.
That meme photo of Osimo and the nerds around the table with the laptops.
Yeah, exactly. On vacation, right, at a fucking beach house, and these losers are all sitting around a fucking kitchen table with their laptops. But that was me, 100%. That, you know, that was to a much lesser extent than Osimo, but that was me. And so I think once you did that for so long, now, like you said, I am not that way at all anymore. But you feel like you have to justify it to other people. Like, well, you did it for 8 years or whatever, and you know you're saying that you were, you know, you did pretty well. Why aren't you still doing it? And it's like you also then feel like you have to justify. I'm like, well, I'm doing it because I'm a lot fucking happier right now. I go, it's a big part of it, you know, and time and happiness really are the main things for me. Like you said, I have enough money. And that's not to brag. I'm not some millionaire or whatever, but like I'm financially stable. I'm married. I have, you know, my 2 dogs and hobbies and stuff that I enjoy. And I like to spend my time on that while still, like you kind of talked about for, you know, the first part, tackling some place that I do believe that there's an edge. And so I'm still getting my money in good, and I'm still getting money in, but it's one variable. Remember, we used to always talk about like pulling the different levers of every DFS slate, right? These are life levers. I'm pulling all these different life, you know, which lever am I going to pull? Well, I used to only pull one. I didn't have hobbies besides gambling. You know, I did, like you said, my favorite type of day off was laying on the fucking couch. Yeah. Watching a TV show and boozing or something. And now that has all changed. You know, that has just totally changed. And so I'm not going to ever stop being that gambler. But I think, especially with the transition into Bestball, that still tickles I still at my core will always kind of be on the entrepreneurial side of things. Like that is, I just love like kind of the new idea. And that's part of why I think DFS and gambling and everything is fun too, because there is kind of always a little something new to think about. Not necessarily a new, right, like strategy or concept, but every day is something new. Players are in, players are out, blah, blah, blah. So I'll always have that as like still a competitive thing. I think like it won't forever be Spike Week, but whatever is something that like a side project that I wanted to write. You did the course, those kinds of things. I want to be able to spend time on that. But then, like you said, with Bestball, you definitely get the questions where like I will literally say, and I believe this, that like, you know, if there's going to be a time do you really want to dive into Bestball? It's now. It's booming. The money is really good to be made in all sports. There's a million different kinds of contests, tournaments, different sports, blah, blah, blah. Kind of like it grew quicker in terms of the contest variety than like DFS did. And so it's if you really want to dive in and go absolutely, you know, nuts to the wall, by all means. And I get it if you want to, like I was when I was 24 with DFS. But you want to talk about time investment. Bestball shit, dude, you can make a good DFS lineup in the click of a button, right? Basically, that doesn't every draft you do is 45 minutes of your life you will never get back. And I do believe, like, you can auto draft with rankings or whatever. I don't believe that's, there's not an optimizer that exists, at least not yet, for best ball.
When Herzig claim otherwise?
Yeah, so I don't know what Herzig said about his auto drafting. Justin McMahon maxed, I think, Best Ball Mania or something like that, auto drafting, and I don't think it went very well. I can't remember, but I know some people have tried it, and like, I'm not saying that they didn't have any success, but I think that there is an inherent skill in, right? It's a peer-to-peer game, and when you're drafting, that's literally when you're doing the peer-to-peer thing. And so there's times where it's not always just literally the top person at the top of your rankings, because there's nuance. Players have correlations and negative correlations and blah, blah, blah. And so 45 minutes for one draft, right? And at and not every, but the majority of contests are just like DFS, 150 max, right? They do have some single entry and all that kind of stuff. But at the end of the day, you want to get as much money down as you can, right? So like $10 a pop, 45 minutes of your life, and you want to do 150 of those, and that's only 150 for one sport, one tournament. There's tons of tournaments. There's every major sport has these things now. So you want to talk about time, life EV with revolving around time, like that's. So I always feel like I have to because when you're trying to build a brand, a product and a brand around Best Ball, and you're telling somebody like, dude, there's so many more people that draft more than me. And they're like, what do you mean? It isn't, this, you're building this company. I'm like, you don't understand. I think about this shit all day long, and I do draft, and I do shows, and I write, right? And we build tools, and you're meeting with developers and contractors, and you're doing all of this shit. And then I'm going to get done and fire off 3 hours of my evening drafting? Like, no, fuck that, dude. But again, at 24, that would have been the fucking dream. What do you mean? Sit around and draft fantasy football teams all night, every night? Like, I would have loved it. But now it doesn't play into my life equation. And so you do feel like you have to justify it. But I'll preach to the end of time. Like, dude, if you just want to go after as much money as you can, right? You're skillful enough to win money, and you would just want to optimize for raw dollars made, go for it. But that's not for I would argue that's not for very many people, actually. It's for very few, whether they don't have enough skill or they don't have enough, mental wherewithal to survive that kind of a lifestyle, because it is absolutely, absolutely brutal. And I'm really glad we did the life EV thing.
Yeah, but you can understand why me. Like, I've never drafted a best ball lineup ever.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And you can understand why I don't. Like, it's not like it's not like I don't understand. You can tell me until you're blue in the face of like, oh, there's so much edge in these draft structures, and then DraftKings is much softer than Underdog, right. And then you have these contests, and I take a look at some of these bad drafts, and I go, oh my God, there's so much edge in those contests. And I go, I'm only one person.
Exactly.
Right? Like, dude, the edge that exists in best ball exists in my prize picks and Underdog, 2 picks parlays on strikeout props, and it takes me 5 minutes to do that, and it's like, okay, where do I want to pick up and obviously always make the point that once you put it into best ball, you're basically giving them an interest-free loan for like months upon months at a time, and it's like, what if I took this money and just put it in my money market account? I get 3% APR. like if it's just about the money, I think best ball is something that's lower on my priority scale, unless it's something that you're passionate about.
Yes.
Where you enjoy the time that you would watch the TV series on Netflix. You're like, no, my entertainment is just studying best ball, and go for it. Look at Emma. If you would have told me 3 years ago that I go down to Nashville and there's a pay-per-view card that I don't even have lineups for, and I'm like, I need to find somewhere to watch this Islam Volkanovski fight. Like, you'd be like, what the fuck, MMA? When do you, or just literally watching sports where you have nothing on the line? Like, I could do that for soccer, but like MMA, what the fuck? And it's like, no, I actually enjoy watching MMA, especially when there are good fights.
Yeah.
And I didn't need to have anything. So like, if that's best ball to you, I don't want to preach to you. Imagine me coming to you saying you should stop doing the best ball stuff because I found this edge over here. You'd be like, well, I could do that and this because I enjoy best ball. People ask me, Eric, they ask me, why don't you play NHL? Why don't you play NHL? NHL is easier than NBA DFS time-wise. And it's like, I'm the type of person that I need to be like immersed in something.
Yeah.
And I conquered soccer DFS first, then I went to baseball, then I went to football, then I went to NBA, then I went to MMA, right? And then it was like, oh, why not college football? Because I don't, like, dude, I'm only one person, right? You're only one person. I don't have to, but there's an edge there. Yeah, I know, there's an edge in everything. There's an edge in goddamn everything. So why are you trying to convince me that you get your edges, I get my edges, you play best ball, I don't play best ball. People were fucking buying top shots like there's no tomorrow. I was anti that like from the get-go. But my opinion was always, I think it's fucking greater fool's theory. I think at some point, everyone's going to be, whoever has them are going to be stuck holding the bags. But hey, if you want to dive in and be the guy that flips before everything crashes, there's money there. I don't say that there's not. Just understand you're all playing a Ponzi scheme.
That's what I did.
Right.
That's what I did. That was. I just want to say I've taken it bad in tons of investments over the course of my life, but I got in. I got out near the top of Top Shot, and I'm very proud of that because I know lots of people that if I pulled up their Top Shot account right now, it would not be very pretty.
But I didn't say there wasn't an edge there. I just said that.
Correct.
That I didn't want to spend my time playing that game, knowing how it was going to turn out. Like if it was the stock market, you know what I do? I buy index fund EFTs, like, you know, very broad based. I DCA in, and then I'll see you in 20 years. Like that's you know how much time it takes me to manage my stock investments? Like this, it's like a minute a month, right? Because I transfer $500 into my IRA, right? And then I just buy whatever the fuck, you know, give me $500. Okay, I'm buying QQQ. Okay, give me 2 shares of QQQ for this month, or 1 share of VOO or SPY or whatever, right? I'm like that's like, see you in 20 years, fuckers. I mean, like that's. So what am I doing there? So I'm probably going to end up getting on average a 9% return year over year, you know, over the course of 20, 25 years. Like, dude, that's my retirement plan. I mean, like if you want to be the one that day trades, I'm not going to tell you there's no edge in that, right? But do I want to be the one doing that? No. And if I'm going to do that, I'm going to have to learn like 8 million times. I'm going to have to learn enough that I could make a course on doing it. So it's like, do I want to spend that time? People ask me, why don't you learn Python? It's like, I don't see the return on my time on how much better, how much more and more optimal I could get. I'm working in Excel. I'm working on a process for MLB to pick my lineups in MLB quicker. But even then, I think I'm only saving a couple of minutes of time there. Right. And I'm doing it a little bit more as an intellectual pursuit of like, can I get this done in Excel? And I know that if I get to a point where it's like, no, this is way too clunky, I just scrap it and just do it manually the way I did it before, because it worked the way before anyway. But, you know, when people are like, oh, I'm going to learn R, I'm going to learn Python, I'm going to build these little things for myself and little, like, I'm not saying that you shouldn't do that. I'm just saying there's 100,000 things to do. And just because you're doing 7 of these and I'm doing 10 of those doesn't mean like one person's right and one person's wrong.
I'm glad that happens so much too, and I think I'm maybe a little more sensitive to it because of Bestball, because Bestball is very much so like clear and obvious one of those things where it's like you're spending your time and right, like you said,
right. I think you're nuts, Eric. Truthfully, I think you're fucking nuts.
And I agree with you, but
truthfully, Eric, I think the best amount of time that you spend is actually on Spike Week and not actually playing Bestball.
Well, I agree, and that's what I was going to get at. Two things is, one, everything that you said about like you have to enjoy this, and that's what I'll tell everybody too. Is like, you know, what should I do when I'm like, if you don't enjoy when you open that thing on your fucking phone and you sit there for 40 or 45 minutes picking people, if you don't actually enjoy that process, don't fucking play this. Because like you're putting your money in, varying levels of far ahead, right? Right now, if you're drafting 2020, it's a year if you're drafting right now. But of course, drafts go all the way up until the season. You can wait till the end. And they have like playoffs and all. So there are varying levels of that best ball aspect where you're putting your money, and not going to see any return on it for quite a while. But that time thing, like if you do not actually enjoy that, it's just like I enjoy making and to varying levels of this too, right? My interest in sitting down and making an NBA DFS team has waned over time, whereas I still enjoy every Sunday morning making those NFL teams. I still enjoy that process. And so when that time comes when I don't enjoy that process, what the fuck am I doing this thing for if I don't actually enjoy it? Like, again, that's one of the levers. Now, you can say it's my job, right? So just because you don't enjoy it, you still do it. You can make money at it. That's also fine. But everybody has their own priorities and their own things that they enjoy, and that enjoyment level plays into those priorities. And so, like I despise when people because I never say any of this, but it'll be a lot of like the DFS bros that that are still grinding their ass off all day every day, grinding NBA DFS, that are like, oh, best ball is so stupid, or I can't believe people put their money in, blah 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 blah. And I'm like, exactly what you said. I'll be honest with you. If I wasn't building Spike Week, I would definitely play best ball because I do enjoy it. But I would not be. I'm not even sure I would tweet about it. I definitely probably wouldn't write about it, like unless Dan asked me to. Like I don't really think I would care nearly as much about it. But the thing that is honestly most interesting to me is it's a brand new industry, and back to that entrepreneurial thing. I can try to build this thing that's like could be something big. It could be nothing, or it could change my life. Right? Like if it gets big enough, it becomes a legit, tout site or whatever you want to call it. So that's my biggest interest in the whole space, and that's what I'm investing my time in. And unfortunately, or fortunately, however you want to look at it, I have to do the thing.
Right? You don't want to be one of those people that are like, oh, this is how you should play best ball. It's like, well, what do your teams look like? I don't got any teams. It's like
I haven't drafted. Yeah.
Right, I haven't drafted
exactly.
yet. I'm like, what?
Yeah. But I agree. I wouldn't to most people, I would not really even recommend it. But I think there's a lot of crazy fucking people out there that love fantasy football in particular and don't give a shit about those other things. They just like drafting teams and then sweating them throughout the course of the year in hopes that they can win $1 million. Like,
right, it's the same thing with DFS. It's the same to me. Best
seems
ball,
fine.
Best ball is made for people that got sick of season-long fantasy football.
Still want to play it, still want to have that sweat, still want to turn the game on Sunday and root for Kadarius fucking Tony or whatever, but they don't want to sit and do waiver wires every Tuesday night or whatever.
It's the same thing how I started soccer DFS. I used to play fantasy FPL, which is a free game, right? With like a million people play, and like if you come in the top, you get a pat in the head or something. And It involves you have to transfer people out, set your starting lineups.
Knives. Not even steak
knives. Right? It's like those free Yahoo type of leagues, but everyone loves FPL if you're into EPL, Premier League Soccer.
I've heard of it. I never played it, but I know
but
what
you
it
triple
is.
captain people on certain and then MLS had a version of that. So if you were into MLS, and dude, there are more podcasts for that than there are DFS, right? And it's just people talking about the salaries going up or down, who you transfer in and out, who the double start weeks, and they talk for hours upon hours about a game that everyone listening has no financial interest in. There's no there are paid leagues. You could be in paid leagues just like you could be in paid fantasy football leagues, but people play because they enjoy it. And when I was 15 years old, that's exactly what I would be doing. Right? Yep. And I'm not saying that I wouldn't enjoy FPL, but once I saw soccer DFS, I'm like, oh, this is much better than FPL. And like, dude, I put $5 in today and it's over. And then I look and I go, oh, it looks like the poker lobby. And it's like, I come from poker. I'm like, oh, here's something that could be solved. So let me see if I could solve it. And is my benefit in solving it making money? Yes. Okay, then give it to me, and then I'll find the next game, and then I'll find the next game, and then once you have all these games, then it just comes down to like which game. I don't have to play all the games. I go to the poker room, and people will be like, "Well, there's this 30-60 stud game, there's this 5-5 PLO game, there's this 40-80 limit hold'em game, and it's like, and there's 1-2, and all these games, and it's like certain games I'm better at than others, but I'm profitable in pretty much all of these games. And I'll look at the table and go, okay, which one is the weakest game, and which is the game that maybe I don't care about which is the most profitable. It's like today I just don't feel like like playing stud. I'll just play the 5-10 no limit game. And then maybe some days where like the PLO game is off the rails, right? People are losing $5,000-$10,000 at a time in pots and everything like that. And I go, I'm just not in the mood for the variance. Right, I'll play the stud game with the 72-year-olds, right? And let's trade some money, and maybe I can make a half a big bet an hour or something in that, right? But I have the option. So like, if I sat at one table and you're like, why aren't you playing at the other? Like the whole goal is to get good enough, especially conceptually, because all these games share the same concepts. That if you're good at the concepts, dude, there's going to be. Dude, 5 years from now, there's going to be some version of prop betting, something or other, the super contest, something or other, that both me and you are going to be able to solve, just like DFS people that got on board in 2011.
That's why every one of these, they came from poker, go to DFS, right? They figure out the props and until they get limited. You figure out the next thing. It's just a wave of a very small collection of people really across all of society that's just where, whether they've learned it was naturally a part of them to solve these games. It's just like you said, they're all the same. And so I love that kind of constant pursuit, but it's just a different level of pursuit now than what it was. And what you mentioned before, well, kind of two things, and then I'll add a third, is like you're only one person, right? And like the life EV kind of plays into the fact that you're only one person. And we talked about this before, like everyone is human. You talked about going into that poker room, right? If you were a fucking robot designed to make money, you would walk into that poker room and do what you said. I'm going to sit down and analyze and see which table I can make the most money at. And the rest of the shit wouldn't matter. Right? Like you said, I don't feel like the variance, or I don't feel like playing, PLO.
I don't feel like playing stud today. There's some annoying guy at that the annoying reg that always yaps, or something. And I'm just not in the mood, or maybe I'm in the mood. I want to fuck around with people. Right. Like maybe it's like, I just feel like I'm gonna play really aggressively today, right? Just to experiment with some strategies. What's the best table to do that at? Where I may not make as many mistakes in the process of trying to, and maybe that's what I feel like today. But the simple pursuit, it almost sounds like, Eric, before we get out of here, that we're EV privileged.
Yeah, that's true.
Is that may be a better title? The EV privilege. Is that
EV privilege? Yeah.
Right? We have so many avenues to realize and take advantage of edges that we could work on other things. I could spend 2 or 3 weeks not playing anything and building the advanced course or something, like to do that, and it's not like I'm losing money. Actually, I'm making, because now I did that thing once, and now I could sell it for 5 years, 10 years, or whatever, and I still get money in. So it's like we have the privilege, and we may be talking to people that first come with. I talked to people that I just started playing DFS last year, and it's like, where have you been? Right? It almost feels like I'm like, where have you been? And then they'll hear, I play this, I play that, I play this, I don't play that anymore, I play this, and they go, well, these are people that may not have conquered their first thing, so they're like, well, they have this fear of missing out of like, well, what should the first thing be? I'm scared of going after something where the edge is dying, versus going after the new shiny new object. And my attitude is there's always going to be shiny new objects.
Yeah.
Said there's enough of an edge in everything now that even if you're playing a DFS sport or some betting market or something, that the edge is starting to diminish, learning how to beat that market will help you beat 20 other things also. So the worst
100%.
case scenario is that you've learned enough that when you move to a new thing, you'll be able to beat that 10 times quicker. And then when you move to the next thing, you'll be able to beat it 15 times quicker. And then you'll be able to move to the point where, very similar to what I tell people that on my coaching calls with the Roto-Grinders members, some of the people I talk to, I literally have to tell them, said, you know as much as I do. Like this, you are playing. There's nothing more I could teach you. And it's like, well, how would I build up this bankroll now further? I've been playing for 2 years. They show me their roto tracker, and I look at it, and it looks great, right? For the ROI that they're getting in the sports and everything like that. I said, you know the difference between me and you is that I'm just 5.5 years ahead of you. Yeah. Like that, your roto tracker looks like mine 2 years in. So like just keep on doing what you're doing. Don't push it. Don't be like, I need to get there quicker. And you'll be, so I'm not doing anything special. I'm 7.5 years ahead of you. I'm 6 years ahead of you. I'm 4 years, wherever you are on that. And then once you understand those concepts, dude, you don't need anyone anymore. Just go out and start looking for people playing games poorly that are putting in money when they're bad, and you put in the money good. And like, that's it. Like, you find an origination source for projections and be like, well, these sports books have these 3 lines off, so fucking bet them. I mean, like, it's like,
so funny. It's so like funny you say that, because it really is true. Like the whatever 10 years of DFS, 100% are the reason why I believe, obviously with the Bestball stuff, that I walked into Bestball and was just able to spot some of the things that instantly people were doing that were like just a part of like the fantasy football culture, right? And it was like, well, I read the rules and the payout structure and everything of this, and I'm like, half of the stuff that people are just, spouting off or I'm seeing in drafts, like, doesn't make any sense, and like any new space, you deal with people with pushback and all that kind of stuff, and that is what it is. But why I believe that, like, I've been able to grow like the Spike Week community, just like this you've done with this podcast and the show on RG and everything, is like people come in, they have the same, like you said, that person, like, I'm just 5 years ahead of you, right? You're coming in, you're figuring this thing out, and this whole community is approaching these games the way that the edge finders, the EV privileged people, are doing, and like, you see it play out. I don't know which any individual within this community that, this multi-thousand person community is going to ship anything, but like, it's constant. It's kind of like early days of DFS, right? There was a small collective of people, whether it's Roto-Grinders or whatever, and people were constantly shipping a lot of these tournaments, and that's how it is now. I'm not saying it's all Spike Week. There's obviously other communities too, ETR and those guys, but like, it's a fairly small collection of people that like have all kind of figured out the edges, and everybody's just printing money. Like I said, I don't know who's going to win exactly when, but everybody has found the edge and is figuring out how to do it. And I never would have gotten to that in Bestball if I didn't learn how to, exactly like you said. When we first started playing DFS, I didn't know what the fuck I was doing. I was losing, whatever. But eventually, you figure it out. And the other thing with, like you said, the props and stuff, again, I mostly focus on the college stuff, college basketball right now, since there's no football, obviously. But like, I can pull up, luckily, between all the fucking sports books that exist, and like Prize Picks and Underdog and all of that, there's enough places to get your money down that you feel like it's not totally wasting your time, like a February NFL Bestball draft. But you can spot it so fast, and I don't even have to have like the RG projections or anything up there to do it. It's just like,
right, they have to be off have to be off so much that it's easy.
There's always, obviously always is an overstatement, but it's like in the college market, like those markets are not liquid enough that they really give a shit, and it's not worth any book's time or wherever they're getting their odds from to literally adjust every single. I mean, like Prize Picks, God bless them. they got fucking Alabama A&M player props and shit on like it's crazy. Like, I don't even know some of these players because there's almost 400 college basketball teams. But so, there's 2 or 3 players from every team that have props, and there's 120 games on a Wednesday night or whatever. It's like they can't feasibly, go in and
they're grabbing it
adjust
from other markets and hoping those markets are efficient, and they're not.
Right, exactly. And so if you but without having, exactly like what you said, without having figured out how to tackle it, I couldn't even if I knew college basketball, even if I had good projections, even if I had all that inherent knowledge about the sport, I could never be able, it doesn't take me very long. My prop betting college basketball process. It's pretty quick.
Right.
And I would never be able to do that efficiently if I hadn't kind of figured out, like you said, you just know by learning the process of finding the edge, which spots you're like, oh, wait, that guy? Why is he projected for, 17 and a half points or whatever? He has a 14% usage rate. And it's like you look and then you're like really quickly, it's like, oh, Jesus, he shot 80% over the last 4 games or whatever. It's like really, really stupid little stuff. You see it every single day. And I think it's a pretty good kind of close to summation point that figuring out how to figure out the edges is like that's it. And then that's everything else we talked. That's the game.
Right, that's the game. And there are so many markets. Like, do you hear, Erik, the justification? Do you hear it in the See, the thing is that you don't hear it in the sports betting space. I think because they're used to, for instance, I don't see anyone going to Rufus saying, why aren't you betting college basketball? It's like he focuses on golf. That's true. Right? Right. There are people that focus on, they know how to beat a certain sport, and they can spend the time to potentially beat other sports, but they're like, no, I'm just going to put my entire allocation in this because the edge is still here, and I'm making enough money that they're not looking into Bulgarian ping pong or something like. But there's someone out there that is beating the Bulgarian ping pong market. There's someone out there that is killing Australian rules football. That if you wanted to focus on Australian rules football, you could probably find the edges just like that person did. But they're hammering that out as much as they can. So the fact that someone is not doing something doesn't mean that the edge doesn't exist. It's just a matter of where do you want to focus your time? How much time does it take? Like, I thought it was nuts, Erik, when people during COVID were playing KBO at 5 a.m, right?
Yeah,
I understood why, Erik. I understood exactly why. It's like, dude, all sports shut down. What the hell do I do? Right? And now that we have Korean baseball, 4-game slates or something like that, you're stacking Kims, you're stacking Lees, you're stacking Parks, right? And people are getting up at 4 a.m. just to make sure that there's the starting lineups. And I'm like, yeah, I could do the same thing, but I don't want to wake up at 4 a.m. So I'm gonna, right. But when Bundesliga, when the German football league came back, well, I play soccer, so I loved seeing the bloated contests for that because there was nothing else to play. I'm a soccer player.
Soccer, and
I made a lot of money
to all you guys. Yeah, exactly. Because idiots like me were like, okay, I don't want to wake up at 4, but okay. Once soccer came back around, I'm like, okay, this is a little bit more my speed. At least I can figure out who's starting and all of that without trying to you couldn't Twitter search these KB. What the fuck are you supposed to search?
Right.
And on Twitter for start. So anyway. But I was definitely one of the fish that were hopping into soccer and just donking it off to you guys. So, Joe, one last thing that it's just so true, and it's so funny because I had some of these conversations this weekend. But I talked to Chief, Will, Chief Justice this weekend, and he's obviously really big into the Prize Picks stuff. But he has a buddy who grinds. I'm trying to remember now, but like Euro basketball leagues, basically. But even some of the lesser ones, not even the main Euro.
I didn't even know there were other leagues. I just thought it was Euro basketball.
There's a shitload of league. It's over my head. Also, I don't really know, but he's grinding those, and Prize Picks offers some of them. You'll get DK and mainly DK will offer some player props and stuff like that on there. He's grinding props and some sides and totals on a little bit lesser known Euro and over international basketball leagues and just printing money. And like you said, he has figured out how to spot an edge. It doesn't mean he couldn't play NBA DFS and have an edge. He's just spotted one that he enjoys, and it's worthwhile for him to go into. And everybody, like you said, everybody is human, and there's only one of them. And so that's been the one that he is enjoying the most and found the most fruitful. And everybody has one of those. It could be, like we talked about, you could be the guy that should spend 16 hours a day or wants to spend 16 hours a day. But like we talked a lot. I can't believe it's been 15 months, by the way. It doesn't feel a lot. Time flies really fucking fast. But we would talk a lot about like some of those like almost like psychological elements. But I do think that they're important, and like it can impact your winning. And like, but like not just because like, you're mentally worn down, but like if you're not spending your time on the right things also, it can very easily impact your winning. And again, you're human, right? You go on tilt because you keep, trying to grind NBA DFS, and maybe you haven't really spotted that edge, right?
Or maybe you go on autopilot. I find that the worst is going on autopilot, where it's like, I'm just going to play the same way I've played the past 3 years, not realizing that the field, I mean, dude, talk to some people that were winners back in 2015, 2016, and sometimes you talk to them and they don't realize that shit has changed, right? It's like, oh, well, I go to Wowie and I check to see the usage rate change. It's like, dude, that's all built into projections. They go,
it doesn't matter anymore.
And everyone has them. It's like, oh, so that's like, that's not an edge anymore. Everyone has that. So you got to move on to something else, right? You got to constantly adapt. So like you don't want to go on autopilot. So that's why like with NBA DFS is like, if I'm not willing to do the work 4 hours a night, like, can I either not do it and just do nothing, or can I replace it? And that's what I'll go see what live poker's like. And holy shit, fucking what's going on here? This is like 15 years. Oh, modern poker changed everything. No, it hasn't. No, it fucking nothing's changed. And the weird thing, Eric, is that when I play poker for a living, that was high variance, right? But when you play DFS for most of your income for 7 years, like that is high variance. And you go back to poker and you're like, wow, isn't this so less stressful, this low variance game?
You can only lose so much, so fast. I definitely am not, anywhere near the poker player that you are, but I have played poker in my life reasonably seriously, and the swings compared to a DFS downswing, nowhere near as mentally demoralizing. Like the real DFS downswings, and even like Big T tweeted about the other day, he's made a lot of money over the course of the last couple of years, and you could he didn't explicitly say it in his tweet, right? But it was like, you could tell, like, he's like, I'm fucking struggling right now.
Right. Well, I mean, but at his level, I mean, downswing, I mean, dude, people have shared like FJ Bourne or Ricky D.
Yeah.
Have shared downswing. I mean, even like Petty, I remember him saying on his Twitch stream, God knows how long ago. It's like, if you haven't experienced your biggest downswing that you would ever imagine, like that means you're not playing aggressively enough. Like these are people with downswings. We're talking about high six-figure downs. We're talking about $800,000 downswings, $600,000. So yeah, you saw them won a milli last year, but like it's like, wow, now they're up $200,000 for the year. Right? like that type of stuff. And do you want to can you handle that? Is that something that you want to introduce to your life? Well, that's what this is. Hence why me being like the nit of the community of like, dude, I just want to make, can I make like $50,000 to $75,000 playing? Because remember, I'm also getting paid from roto grinders. I'm also getting paid for the course. So like last year, I made over $100,000 in total because I think I made 41,000 from DFS. I made like 25,000 from prop betting. Then I obviously make some money from roto grinders. Made money selling the course. It's over $100,000. So it's like 50 to 75,000. Like, can I do that with like almost no risk of ruin? Like, and with the least amount of time. So it's like, why I'm in the constant pursuit of that, of like, well, I could do this for this edge for X amount of dollars, but can I just give up a little bit of that and then shave off half the time? Fucking let's do that. right? Oh, don't make
Yeah.
150 MLB lineups on 2 different sites and make the same amount of money? Sounds good to me. Let's fucking condense that time again. Can I do it from the poker room? That I could just take a break for 10 minutes and do it on a computer and just bring my laptop up? Even better. Great. So I don't even have to, okay. Let's do that. But you have to learn the concepts, right? In order to find that in any game that you play. And that's why you get the Theory of Daily Fantasy Sports, right? Or you go to Spike Week. Spike Week for the Bestball stuff. You're still Erik Beimfohr on Twitter, right? You haven't turned into like...
I still am.
Spike Week Eric? You're not Spike Week Eric?
It's never... Fuck no, I will never do that. And I will still continue to make fun of the people that like have DFS in their name, right? Like, I won't call anybody out, but even good friends, I like to make fun. We're like, I'm 34, turning 35 in a couple months. And, a lot of the friends I have are, anywhere from my age to your age, basically. And we're getting old. Like when you first started and you were 22 and now I'm going to call them out, but like Ship My Money DFS as your Twitter handle, like God bless you. Like now you're looking back, like I'm like, at what age do you need to change from your poker?
I look at Dave Potts, Eric. His cheese is good.
That's Dave. Yeah, and Dave's much older than us.
Right, and Dave's in his
much,
what,
like 50s? He's old, but he's older than us.
Right.
Yeah, so maybe the answer is just never. But I didn't want to have to. I didn't want to have to deal with that. I'm 48 years old and I'm like a DFS God 69 or whatever.
Right,
on Twitter.
Right. Slap my nuts 42 or something. Right.
Exactly.
But that's what we grew up with. I mean, we're from that generation anyway. So like if you're cum drizzler 69, right, or something like that, or something, then fine. If that's your DFS name, if you're on the Roto Grinders leaderboard as that, then that's what. Well, look at what people call me Blender, and like, what does that have to do with it? It's Blender Head, and true. I didn't have, and someone still can eat. Can someone, if Elon's going to promote his own tweets, just shit like that, can he at least do me the favor of get the guy that has Blender Head that hasn't tweeted since 2009 to give up his goddamn handle so I could have it? That's the only thing. And then if I had that handle, people would actually have called me Blender Head and not Blender HD for like fucking 7 years.
Exactly. We were probably doing the damn podcast for multiple weeks before I knew that it was Blender Head and not Blender HD. And then ironically, my wife is just better at like life than me and everything. When we walked up to the party, she goes, "Oh yeah, Blender Head, right?" I'm like, "How the fuck do you know that it's Blender Head? Like, you've never met the guy. You've only heard me talk to him, for a lot of hours, but still, like she knows that it is." And like, there's like 3% of people that know that it's Blender
Even
Head.
Dean has to ask me like fucking at least 3 times a year when I do shows with him. And it's like, haven't we talked about this already? Right. Or my favorite comedy movies. It's like, dude, can we get to the slate already?
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, so spikeweek.com. Get your Bijan Robinson.
Oh yeah.
Why is this ADP?
Oh my God.
I only know about Bestball from the tweet. I'm not playing, but all I know is that people are now debating whether or not to take Bijan Robinson. I don't know who he is. But to take him in the 3rd round, and it seems like that's not good for someone that has not been drafted yet.
His ADP is at the end of the 1st, early 2nd round, and we don't know where he's going to play. And he's one of these guys where the fantasy football bros for years, like if you play Dynasty, have been trading away picks or players to try to get 1st round picks in this 2023 year because everybody's known that he was going to be coming out and he's one of the best running back prospects of all time. So everybody is excited about
all
him.
Time. Rookie running backs. Nothing could go wrong with that.
Him, yeah, exactly. Remember Trent Richardson? He's much more athletic than Trent Richardson. So he's like the Saquon or something like that, basically.
Right, but he could tear his ACL in the fucking 2nd week of preseason. So I mean,
100%. I was just gonna plug super quickly. This is like a little bit of the Bestball downtime, even though the psychopaths at Underdog launched a big tournament already. But at Spike Week, if you are one of the crazies like me interested, you don't have to be drafting. It is kind of a fun time right now. We're going to be putting out a rookie guide, so you'll get to learn all about Bijan Robinson. People love the rookies, and the rookies are like low key one of the more important factors in the best ball tournaments.
Right,
because
you take your 16th round pick, right? Those are the people that you take shots on.
Right, Justin Jefferson, his rookie season was going in like the 16th round. Garrett Wilson last year was going in like the 11th, 12th round. Just some, that isn't always the case. Sometimes you get Trey Lance or Zach Wilson. Sometimes you get Justin Jefferson, and so the rookies are a pretty big factor. So we're really diving into that, and then a small teaser that I also told Blender, if you haven't played before and you like the theory of DFS, we're working on our own kind of course to get you up to speed with anything and everything you need to know that will also be applicable across all sports. So theoretically, one course that will allow you to tackle baseball best ball, and they got golf best ball now, and hockey best ball, and everything. And so
dare you call it the theory of best ball?
And absolutely not. I'm not going to copy you on the name. We would lose sales right away, right off the top, if that happened. No, I don't know what we're going to call it, but very much similar to what you got going on here. So I wanted to go ahead and plug that. It seemed like a fitting opportunity.
Is it going to be audio or written?
We're going to try to do both, I think. Okay. But we'll see how that goes. Understand
the only reason why my course is audio is because I hate writing.
I know exactly, and I don't mind writing as much as you. So we'll see how that goes.
Okay, so is that going to be out? I'm assuming at minimum, at worst case scenario, it'll be out before NFL season.
Exactly.
Because from a marketing perspective, that's like come July and August. That's when more people are going to want to sell it.
Exactly. The goal is after the NFL draft, so that's when all the big tournaments and stuff pretty much open up. So that's the goal. So that's late April, early May.
Maybe I'll check it out. Maybe I actually will. I can't spend 45 minutes drafting shit. Are you kidding me? I'll still read it. I'll read it. I'll listen to it, and I'll endorse it once I do. And,
there we go.
And I'll create a link or something, some affiliate deal or something.
There we go. That's a good idea.
Right. Yeah, of course, you should do an affiliate promo code something or other. Promo code
Blender HD, and that's what it's going to be.
Promo code pay whatever you want.
Yeah.
Right, that's the only thing that I don't do with my courses. Right? It's like, here's the price. It's like, I thought because people have emailed and said it's weird that it's not pay whatever you want. I go, no, because I need to make money, right? Because pay whatever you want. The number you're going to pay is 0, because that's what I would do, right? So fuck you. I'm going to put a price on it. Okay, you'll come back on in another 15 months, right? To let me know what's going on.
15 months. Yeah, we got a little a break here. I will say I'm not trying to kick Neil off for any future episodes, but I am going to try to. I didn't play as much baseball last year, and I kind of had this weird. I'm excited for baseball. Are you excited for baseball? I love baseball DFS, at least for like the first 3 or 4 months of the season.
I'm excited that it's not NBA DFS. That's all it is.
I just can't. Yeah, exactly. It's probably just because it's not NBA, and I had a terrible NFL season, so maybe it's that.
So you want to come back on during MLB season?
Maybe, yeah.
Neil is boring. I need more. I need you to on more.
You can have Neil on too. It doesn't have to be in place of him. But I'm just saying,
3 people. Do you really think 2 other people could get a word in over me? Are you kidding me?
Well, we need 2 of us. Otherwise, right. That's the only way we'll get a fucking word in over you.
Right. Well, you did a good job this episode. I let you talk.
Yeah, it's because I had my coffee before.
Right.
Sometimes
we used to record
deal. Sometimes a little earlier. I might be a little groggy. Got an afternoon coffee in right before we had this, so I could try to speak over you.
Right. Well, in the comments feel free to post it. Who do you like better, Neil or Erik? Right. There are plenty of people, dude, in the past episodes like, why is this guy with Neil? It's like, this guy is so boring in the comments. Like, is this supposed to be an exciting show? Aren't I? I'm pretty much boring, right?
In fairness, if you sign up for a show that's called The Theory of Daily Fantasy Sports and you expected, like an episode of Jackass or something, I'm not sure what you thought you were getting yourself into.
Well, I mean, look at my black eye. Maybe it is an episode of Jackass.
That is true. That's very true.
Right. It was a DFS injury. Yeah. Okay. So follow Erik Beimfohr on Twitter, spikeweek.com. And obviously, the Theory of Daily Fantasy Sports 15-hour audio DFS masterclass you can pick up at theoryofdfs.com.